The rope was already around her neck when Jack Graves rode into Dry Creek. It was the kind of morning that made the desert look like hell's anteroom red dust hanging in the air, vultures circling overhead, and the whole town gathered in the square like they were attending Sunday service. Except this wasn't no church gathering. This was a hanging, and the congregation had come to watch Eliza Monroe die. She stood on a wooden crate beneath the twisted oak that served as Dry Creek's gallows, her wrists bound behind her back, chin held high despite the hemp scratching at her throat. 22 years old, auburn hair tangled from a night in jail, wearing the same faded blue dress she'd worn serving whiskey at Murphy's saloon for the past 3 years. The crowd jeered and spat, calling her poisoner, thief, Jezebel, every ugly word they could think of for a woman who dared to exist without protection in a town full of men. "String her up," someone shouted from the back. "Make her dance." Sheriff Briggs, pot-bellied and sweating through his vest despite the morning chill, unfolded a piece of paper. "Eliza Monroe, you stand accused of theft and attempted murder by poison of one Samuel Murphy, proprietor of Murphy's saloon. The evidence being clear and testimony given. You are sentenced to hang by the neck until dead. You got any last words?" Eliza's green eyes swept over the crowd, all those faces she'd served drinks to, smiled at, endured grabbing hands from. Not one of them would speak for her. Not one of them cared that Sam Murphy had been forcing himself on her for months, that she'd never stolen nothing, that the old fool had probably drunk himself sick on his own rot-gut whiskey. "I'm innocent," she said, voice steady as bedrock. "But I reckon that don't matter none to folks who made up their minds before I ever opened my mouth." Someone threw a tomato. It splattered against her shoulder, red juice running down her dress like blood. The crowd laughed. That's when they heard the hoofbeats. A lone rider came thundering down Main Street, his black stallion kicking up clouds of dust that turned the morning sun into a pale ghost. He wore all black from his wide-brimmed hat to his leather duster to the polished boots in silver stirrups. 2 Colt .45s hung low on his hips, and a Winchester rifle glinted in his saddle scabbard. Even at a distance, folks could see the hard set of his jaw, the way he sat his horse like he was born to it. "What in the hell?" Sheriff Briggs squinted into the dust. The rider didn't slow until he was right at the edge of the crowd. Then he reined up hard, his stallion rearing and pawing the air. When the horse's hooves hit dirt again, the man swung down smooth as silk, spurs jangling with each step as he pushed through the suddenly quiet crowd. Jack Kane Graves was known from Tucson to Abilene. Some called him a bounty hunter. Some called him worse. He'd killed his first man at 17, and in the 12 years since, he'd sent enough souls to meet their maker that folks had stopped counting. But he'd been gone from these parts for near 2 years, and seeing him now was like watching a ghost materialize from the desert heat. He walked straight up to the gallows, ignoring the way folks shrank back from him like he carried plague, his eyes gray as winter storm clouds fixed on Eliza for a long moment, taking in the rope, the hostile crowd, the woman standing proud despite it all. "Cut her down," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried like thunder. Sheriff Briggs sputtered. "Now see here, Graves, this is a legal execution. The woman's been tried and convicted. You got no business." Jack reached into his duster and pulled out a folded paper. "Got all the business in the world. Sheriff, this here's a marriage certificate, dated 6 months back in San Antonio. That woman you're fixing to hang, she's my wife." The crowd erupted. Women gasped. Men cursed. Eliza's eyes went wide as saucers. "That's a damned lie," Sam Murphy pushed forward from the crowd, his face red as fresh beef. He was still alive, despite the poisoning charges, fat, drunk, and ornery as ever. "That girl ain't married to nobody. She's been working in my saloon, living upstairs." "Working," Jack said, turning those cold eyes on Murphy. "Because I asked her to, keeping an eye on things while I was away on business. Imagine my surprise, getting word that you all were planning to hang her for some made-up nonsense about poison." He took a step closer to Murphy. "You feeling poorly, Sam?" You look healthy enough to me, healthy enough to be pawing at women who don't want your attention. Murphy's face went from red to purple. You can't just ride in here with some paper and... Can and will. Jack turned back to the sheriff. You planning to cut her down, or do I need to do it myself? Briggs looked at the paper, then at Jack's guns, then at the restless crowd. He was sweating harder now. This changes things, but the town council... The town council can kiss my boot, Jack said. Get your hands off my wife. For a moment, nobody moved. The morning had gone still as a held breath. Then Jack's hand drifted toward his gun belt. Just a shift, really, fingers flexing, and that was enough. Cut her down, Jed, the sheriff told his deputy. Young Jed Palmer climbed up on the crate, fumbling with the rope around Eliza's neck. She stood rigid, staring at Jack like he was something out of a fever dream. When the rope came loose, she swayed, and Jack was there, catching her before she could fall. Easy, he murmured, quiet enough that only she could hear. Play along now, and we'll both live through this morning. She looked up at him, this stranger, claiming to be her husband, this killer who'd appeared like some dark angel to pluck her from death's door. His face was all angles and shadows beneath his hat brim, tanned from years under desert sun, with a thin scar running from his left temple to his jaw. Handsome in a dangerous way. Like a mountain cat was handsome right before it pounced. I don't know you, she whispered. You do now. He cut the ropes at her wrists with a quick slash of his knife, then took her hand, raising his voice so the whole crowd could hear. Come on, darling. Let's get you home. This ain't over, Murphy shouted. That paper could be fake. We demand proof. The town's got rights. Jack paused, still holding Eliza's hand. When he turned back, his smile was all teeth and no warmth. You want proof? Murphy, how about this? My wife's been sending me letters about how you've been treating her, about the liberties you've been trying to take, about how she had to lock her door every night to keep you out. His free hand rested on his gun. Now, I'm a patient man, but there are limits. You touch her again, hell. You even look at her wrong and we'll have ourselves a different kind of trial, the kind that ends with you feeding buzzards. Understand? Murphy opened his mouth, closed it, looked around for support, but the crowd had already started to scatter. Nobody wanted to be between Jack Graves and his target when the lead started flying. Smart man, Jack said. He turned to the sheriff. I'll be taking my wife now. Got our horses at the livery. We'll be leaving town within the hour. Good riddance, someone muttered. Jack's eyes found the speaker, Tom Bradley, the banker. What was that? Tom? Bradley went pale. Nothing, I said. Safe travels. That's what I thought. Jack led Eliza away from the gallows, through the parting crowd, his hand gentle on her elbow, but his eyes scanning for threats. She walked beside him in a daze, her mind spinning like a dust devil. When they were clear of the crowd, heading toward the livery stable, she found her voice. Why? Keep walking, he said under his breath. Smile like you're glad to see me. I don't know how to smile right now. I was about to die. You still might, if we don't play this right. He nodded to Mrs. Henderson, the seamstress, who was watching from her shop door. Morning, ma'am. Fine day, ain't it? Mrs. Henderson clutched her shawl and hurried inside. The livery stable was dim and cool, smelling of hay and horse. Jack's stallion was there, along with a pretty little paint mare already saddled. You planned this. Eliza said it wasn't a question. Get on the horse. He was already checking saddle straps, loading supplies. We can talk when we're clear of town. I'm not going anywhere with you. I don't know who you are or what you want. He turned to her then, and something in his face made her words die. Listen careful, because I'm only saying this once. In about 10 minutes, that crowd's going to get their courage back. They're going to remember they outnumber me 30-1. They're going to decide maybe that marriage paper was fake after all. And maybe they should string us both up just to be safe. So you can stand here asking questions, or you can get on that mare and live to see sunset. Your choice." Eliza looked at him, really looked, beneath the danger and the guns. She saw something else. Exhaustion. Maybe, like he'd been riding hard for days, like he'd pushed himself and his horse to the breaking point to get here in time. "Why?" she asked again, softer this time. "Later." He held out his hand to help her mount. "Please." That please did it. Men like him didn't say please unless they meant it. She took his hand, put her foot in the stirrup, and swung up into the saddle. The mare shifted beneath her, gentle and well-trained. Jack mounted his stallion in one fluid motion, then looked back at her. "Can you ride?" "I grew up on a farm. I can ride." "Good. Stay close. Don't look back. Whatever happens, keep riding north." They walked the horses out of the stable, taking their time, looking for all the world like a man and wife heading home after a trip to town. But Eliza could feel the eyes on them from windows, doorways, alleys, the whole town watching, waiting. They made it to the edge of Main Street before someone shouted, "That ain't his wife. I seen her serving drinks just last night. She ain't never been married." "It's a trick. Stop 'em." Jack swore under his breath. "So much for the easy way? Ride." He spurred his stallion, and Eliza did the same to the mare. They burst into a gallop just as the first shot rang out, kicking up dust near the mare's hooves. Eliza bent low over the horse's neck, her hair streaming behind her, the sound of pursuit already rising behind them. "Keep going," Jack shouted over the thunder of hooves. "Don't stop for anything." They flew past the last buildings of Dry Creek, out into the vast expanse of desert, the morning sun climbing higher, throwing their shadows long and dark across the red earth. Behind them, Eliza could hear horses, men shouting, more gunshots. This was her life now, racing into the unknown with a stranger who claimed to be her husband, leaving behind the only town she'd known for 3 years, trading a noose for whatever fate Jack Graves had in store for her. But she was alive. The wind was in her face, the horse strong beneath her, and she was alive. For now, that would have to be enough. The desert swallowed them up, red and endless, while Dry Creek's fury faded to distant thunder in their wake. They rode hard through the morning, pushing the horses until foam flecked their sides and their breathing came in great heaves. The desert stretched endless before them, red rock and sparse mesquite. Century plants reaching skeletal arms toward a sky bleached white by the climbing sun. Jack led them through arroyos and across hard-pan flats, choosing paths that would be harder to track, doubling back twice to confuse their trail. It was past noon when he finally slowed, guiding them into a narrow canyon where ancient cottonwoods offered blessed shade. A trickle of water ran through the rocks, barely a stream, but enough for the horses. "We'll rest here," he said, swinging down from his stallion. 10 minutes, no more." Eliza slid from the mare's back, her legs shaky after hours in the saddle. Her dress was soaked with sweat, her hair a tangled mess. She watched Jack tend to the horses, first checking their hooves, letting them drink before he pulled a canteen from his saddlebag and offered it to her. "Drink slow," he advised. "We've got a long way to go." She took the canteen but didn't drink. "Who are you?" He was scanning the canyon rim, watchful even in rest. "Told you, Jack Graves, your husband, as far as anyone in Dry Creek knows." "That's not what I meant." She kept her voice steady despite the fear and confusion churning in her gut. "Why did you save me? What do you want?" He finally looked at her, those storm-gray eyes unreadable. "Would you rather I'd let them hang you?" "I'd rather know why a man like you, a killer, a bounty hunter, would risk his neck for a saloon girl he's never met." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Who says we've never met?" The word sent a chill down her spine despite the desert heat. She studied his face, searching her memory. Had he been in Murphy's saloon, she'd served hundreds of men over 3 years, most of them forgettable faces blurred by whiskey and rough living. But surely she'd remember him, those eyes. that scar, the way he carried death as casual as other men carried pocket watches. "I don't know you," she said firmly. "No," he agreed. "You don't." He took the canteen back, drank deeply, then corked it. "Mount up. They'll have figured our direction by now. Murphy's probably offering good money to whoever brings you back." "Brings us back? You mean—" "No, just you." He was already checking his guns, spinning the cylinders. "I'm worth more dead than alive to most folks, but you Murphy wants you breathing, wants to see you hang proper. Make an example. Man like that don't take kindly to being made a fool." She mounted the mare, gathering the reins. "So what's your plan? Keep running until we hit Mexico?" "Something like that." He swung up on his stallion, then paused. "Unless you got somewhere else to be." The question hit harder than he probably meant it to. Where did she have to go? Her parents were 6 years in the ground. The farm sold to pay debts. No family. No friends who'd risk harboring a fugitive. She'd been alone before Jack Graves rode into town, and she'd be alone after he tired of whatever game he was playing. "Lead on," she said. They left the canyon's shelter, heading northwest across increasingly rough country. The land rose and fell in waves of stone and sand, dotted with cholla and prickly pear. Jack picked their path carefully, often dismounting to lead the horses through treacherous passages. He moved like a man born to this harsh country, reading signs in the dirt and wind that Eliza couldn't begin to decipher. By late afternoon, her water was gone and her throat felt like she'd swallowed sand. The mare was flagging too, head drooping, steps growing clumsy. When Jack called another halt beside a cluster of boulders, she nearly fell from the saddle. "Easy." He caught her arm, steadying her. "Heat's getting to you." "I'm fine." "Sure you are." He unsaddled the horses, hobbling them where they could graze on whatever sparse grass grew in the rock's shadow. From his pack, he produced hardtack and jerky, dividing it between them. "Eat. Need to keep your strength." She gnawed the tough meat, watching him work. Everything he did was efficient, purposeful. A man used to survival, to being hunted. "How long have you been planning this?" He looked up from checking his rifle. "What?" "Saving me. You had that marriage certificate ready. Had the spare horse saddled. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment rescue." He was quiet long enough that she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Been in town 3 days. Watching, listening. Heard what they were planning for you." "Why do you care?" Instead of answering, he stood, shading his eyes as he studied their back trail. "Dust. Maybe 5 miles back." Eliza scrambled to her feet, heart hammering. "They're still coming." Did you think they'd give up? He was already saddling the horses again. "Murphy's got pride and money. Bad combination. He'll chase us to Hell's Gates if he has to." They rode on as the sun sank toward the horizon, painting the desert in shades of blood and gold. The beauty of it might have taken Eliza's breath if she hadn't been so focused on staying in the saddle. Her whole body ached, and blisters were forming where her hands gripped the reins. Jack pushed them harder now, urgency replacing caution. They descended into a maze of canyons, the walls rising higher as darkness gathered. Stars began to prick the deepening sky, and still they rode. It was full dark when disaster struck. The mare stumbled in loose scree, going down hard. Eliza kicked free of the stirrups just in time, hitting the ground with bruising force. She heard the mare scream, saw the unnatural angle of its foreleg, and knew. Jack was beside her in an instant, helping her sit up. "You hurt?" "No, but the horse." "I know." His voice was grim. He drew his pistol, walked to the thrashing mare. One shot echoed through the canyon, then silence. Eliza turned away, tears stinging her eyes. It was just a horse, but somehow it felt like one more death laid at her feet. "Come on." Jack lifted her to her feet. "You'll ride with me." "Your stallion can't carry us both, not at speed." "He'll manage." He was already stripping what supplies he could from the dead mare's saddle. No choice now. He mounted first, then pulled her up behind him. She had no choice but to wrap her arms around his waist, press close against his back. He smelled of leather and gunpowder, sweat and something else sage, maybe, or cedar. Hold tight, he said, and spurred the stallion forward. They rode slower now, the horse laboring under double weight. Behind them, Eliza could swear she heard hoofbeats echoing through the canyons. Her imagination, maybe, or maybe not. There, Jack said suddenly, guiding the stallion toward what looked like solid rock. But as they drew closer, Eliza saw a crack in the canyon wall, barely wide enough for horse and riders. They squeezed through into a hidden pocket of stone, a natural fortress with high walls and only one entrance. Jack dismounted, pulling her down after him. We'll ford up here for the night, he said. Let them pass by. He unsaddled the exhausted stallion, rubbed him down with dry grass, then set about making a cold camp. No fire, the smoke would give them away. They sat in darkness, sharing water, listening to the night sounds of the desert. They'll find us, Eliza whispered. Come morning, they'll backtrack. Maybe. He was a shadow beside her, but she could feel his alertness, the way he held himself ready for violence. Get some sleep. I'll keep watch. I can't sleep. Try. She lay down on the hard ground, using his saddlebag as a pillow. Above, stars crowded the narrow strip of sky visible between canyon walls. She thought about her narrow escape that morning, how close the rope had come to ending everything. Now here she was, alive but hunted, trusting her life to a stranger whose motives remained a mystery. Jack! What you said to Murphy, about me writing you letters, about him trying to... She couldn't finish. Made it up, figured it might make folks think twice. A pause. Unless it was true. She closed her eyes. True enough. Thought so. Men like Murphy don't change their nature. Sleep wouldn't come. Every sound made her tense, the stallion shifting. Wind through stone, distant coyote calls, and underneath it all, the nagging feeling that Jack Graves knew more about her than any stranger should. Near midnight, she heard them. Horses moving through the canyon below, men's voices carrying on the still air. Jack's hand found hers in the darkness, squeezing one. Stay quiet, stay still. The riders passed so close she could hear leather creaking, spurs jingling. Someone said, "Lost them in these damn rocks." Another voice, one she recognized as Bill Harmon from the livery. "Murphy says double the reward if we bring her back before dawn." What about Graves? Dead or alive? Preferably dead. They moved on, the sounds fading. Eliza realized she'd been holding her breath. Jack's hand was still on hers, calloused and warm. "That was close," she whispered. "They'll be back. Come first light. They'll search every hole and crevice." He released her hand, stood. "We need to move. Now." In the dark, your horse needs rest. Better tired than dead. He was already saddling the stallion. There's another way out of these canyons. Harder route, but it'll put distance between us and them. She helped him pack, moving by feel in the darkness. As he lifted her onto the stallion's back, she asked, "Why are you doing this, really?" He mounted behind her, arms coming around to take the reins. For a moment, she thought he'd deflect again. Then, so quiet, she almost missed it. "Maybe I got tired of watching good people die for bad reasons." Before she could respond, he urged the stallion forward, back through the narrow crack and into the canyon. They turned north, picking their way by starlight, leaving the posse's dust to settle in their wake. The night swallowed them again, and Eliza found herself leaning back against Jack's solid presence, drawing comfort from it despite everything. She didn't trust him, couldn't afford to, but for now, he was all that stood between her and a rope. The desert didn't care about trust, it only cared about survival, and Jack Graves whatever else he was, knew how to survive. They rode on through the darkness, two fugitives bound by necessity and secrets, while behind them, Dry Creek's vengeance gathered like a storm. The cave appeared just as the stallion's legs began to shake. They'd been climbing for hours through a maze of switchbacks and narrow ledges, the path growing more treacherous as dawn approached. Jack guided them into the mouth of the cave, a deep hollow in the cliff face, hidden by an overhang of rock and a scraggly juniper that had somehow found purchase in the stone. "This'll do," he said, helping Eliza down. She could barely stand, her legs numb from hours of riding. The cave went back 30 feet, narrowing to a crack that let in a whisper of air. Old ashes in a fire pit told of previous visitors, Indians, maybe, or other fugitives seeking shelter. Jack unsaddled the stallion and hobbled him near the entrance where he could graze on scattered bunch grass. "No fire," Jack said, though Eliza was shivering in the pre-dawn cold. "Smoke would give us away." He spread his bedroll on the cave floor, gesturing for her to sit. She collapsed gratefully, watching as he positioned himself near the entrance, rifle across his knees, watching the lightening sky. "You should sleep," she said. "I'm fine. When did you last sleep?" He glanced back at her. "Can't recall." The growing light revealed the exhaustion etched in his face, the hollows under his eyes, the tight set of his jaw. He looked like a man running on will alone. "Why were you in Dry Creek?" she asked. "Really? Passing through. Men like you don't just pass through. You were there for a reason." He was quiet so long she thought he'd gone back to ignoring her questions. Then, "Had business with someone." "Who? Doesn't matter now." "Was it me?" The question tumbled out before she could stop it. "Were you there for me?" His shoulders tensed. "What makes you think that?" "The way you look at me sometimes. Like you know me. Like you've been watching me longer than 3 days." She pulled his jacket tighter around her shoulders. He'd given it to her during the cold ride. "Who hired you?" He turned then, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. "You really want to know?" "Yes." He set the rifle aside, moved closer, sitting cross-legged facing her. In the dim light, his scar stood out pale against his weathered skin. "Man named Morrison, out of Fort Worth. Paid me $500 to find you, and..." He stopped. "And what?" "Make sure you never testified in court." The words hit her like a physical blow. She stared at him, mind racing. Morrison. She knew that name. 2 years ago, she'd witnessed something in Fort Worth, a murder behind the Cattleman's Hotel. She'd seen Thomas Morrison shoot an unarmed man, seen him rifle through the dead man's pockets. She'd run, terrified, left town that very night. But someone must have seen her there, known she could identify Morrison. "You were hired to kill me. It wasn't a question." "Yes." "But you didn't." "No." "Why?" Jack looked away, jaw working. When he spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. "Watched you for 3 days. Saw how you treated folks at the saloon, patient with the drunks. Kind to that old Mexican woman who begged for scraps. Saw Murphy corner you behind the bar that second night. Saw you fight him off." His hands clenched. "Saw you that last night, sitting alone in your room, mending that same blue dress for the 100th time. No tears, no self-pity, just enduring." Eliza's throat felt tight. "That's why you saved me." Started thinking maybe the world didn't need one less good person in it. Lord knows there ain't many left. He met her eyes again. "So I made a choice. Sent word back to Morrison that Eliza Monroe was dead. Figured that would be the end of it. Then I heard what Murphy was planning. And you couldn't let them hang an innocent woman." Something like that. She studied his face, seeing him differently now. Not just a killer, but a man wrestling with conscience. "Morrison will find out I'm alive." "Maybe, but by then you'll be long gone. New name, new life, Mexico, California." Wherever you want. What about you? He shrugged. I've been living on borrowed time for years. One more enemy won't matter much. Outside, the sun crept higher, painting the canyon walls gold and red. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried. The morning was beautiful, peaceful, nothing like the violence pursuing them. I remember that night in Fort Worth, Eliza said quietly. The man Morrison killed. He was young, maybe 20, red hair. He begged for his life. Don't think on it. Hard not to. It's haunted me for 2 years. Maybe if I'd stayed, testified. You'd be dead. Morrison owns half the law in Fort Worth. That boy's death would still go unpunished, and you'd be in the ground beside him. She knew he was right, but the guilt remained. Do you ever regret it, the men you've killed? Jack was quiet for a moment. The ones who deserved it, no. The ones who were just in the wrong place. Wrong time. He rubbed his face. Yeah, those ones visit me at night. How do you live with it? You don't. You just keep going until you can't. He stood, went back to the cave entrance. Sun's up. They'll be moving again. As if on cue, she heard it, distant hoofbeats echoing through the canyon below. Jack pressed back into the shadows, motioning for her to stay still. The sounds grew closer. Voices carried on the morning air. Eliza recognized Sam Murphy's whiskey-rough growl. Check every cave, every crevice. That bastard's holed up somewhere. Boss, the men are tired. Horses are played out. I don't give a damn, find them. Jack had gone completely still, hand resting on his Colt. Eliza held her breath as the search party passed below, dust rising from their horses' hooves. She counted at least 8 riders, all armed. It took 20 minutes for the sounds to fade completely. Even then, Jack waited, patient as stone, before finally relaxing. They're getting desperate, he said. Desperate men make mistakes. Or they get lucky. That too. He pulled hardtack from his saddlebag, handed her a piece. We'll wait for full daylight, then move. There's a trading post about 15 miles northwest. Man there owes me a favor. We can get supplies, maybe a fresh horse. Won't they check there? Eventually, but we'll be gone by then. They ate in companionable silence. Despite everything, the danger, the uncertainty, the revelation that he'd been sent to kill her, Eliza found herself oddly at ease with him. There was something steady about Jack Graves, something solid beneath the violence and reputation. Can I ask you something? She said. You've been asking questions all morning. This one's different? She waited until he looked at her. Is Jack Graves even your real name? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Real as any other? That's not an answer. No, it's not. He stood, stretching muscles stiff from vigilance. Names don't matter much out here. Man is what he does, not what he's called. What does that make you? Right now, a fool who gave up easy money to save a woman who asks too many questions. Despite everything, she found herself smiling. Thank you for choosing not to kill me. Don't thank me yet. We're not clear of this. He began saddling the stallion. You ready to ride? Do I have a choice? Always a choice. You could stay here, take your chances with Murphy's men. Might be they'd believe you if you said I kidnapped you. Might be they'd hang me anyway. That too. She stood, brushing dust from her ruined dress. I'll take my chances with you. He helped her mount, then swung up behind her. As they emerged from the cave into full daylight, she asked, Where are we really going? Jack. Away from here. That's all that matters. And when we get there, wherever there is... He was quiet for a moment, arms steady around her as he guided the stallion down the treacherous path. Then you disappear, become someone else, someone Morrison and Murphy never heard of. What about you? I'll do what I always do. Move on. Something in his voice made her throat tight. He'd saved her life. risked everything for a stranger, and expected nothing in return except to vanish back into the violent life he'd known. "Maybe you could disappear too," she said softly. "Become someone else." His arms tightened slightly around her. "Men like me don't get to disappear, Eliza. We just ride until we can't anymore." They descended into a new canyon, the morning sun warming their backs. Behind them, the cave disappeared into shadow and stone. Ahead, the desert stretched endless and unforgiving, offering nothing but hard choices and uncertain futures. But for now, they rode together, killer and witness. Hunter turned protector, two damaged souls bound by circumstance and a growing understanding that neither quite dared name. The stallion picked his way down the rocky trail, sure-footed despite his exhaustion, and Eliza found herself leaning back into Jack's solid warmth, drawing strength from the steady beat of his heart against her spine. Whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. For now, that was enough. The abandoned miner's shack sat crooked against the hillside, its tin roof rusted orange and walls weathered to silver gray. Jack had remembered it from years back, a failed silver claim that left behind only broken dreams and solid shelter. They reached it as the afternoon sun blazed overhead, both of them dust-covered and bone-weary from 2 days of hard riding. "We'll rest here tonight," Jack said, helping Eliza down from the stallion. "It's off the main trails. Safe enough." The shack's interior was sparse, a rope bed with moldy straw tick, a table with one broken leg, a stone fireplace, but it had walls and a roof, and after sleeping in caves and under stars, it felt like luxury. Jack tended the horse while Eliza explored their temporary refuge. In a corner cupboard, she found treasures: a dented can of peaches, some flour gone weevily but usable, even a cake of lye soap. "Look," she said when Jack entered, holding up her finds, "we can have a real meal." Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe at her pleasure over such simple things. "I'll fetch water. Stream's not far." While he was gone, Eliza busied herself cleaning years of dust from the table and hearth. She found an old broom and attacked the floor with vigor, needing the activity after days of helpless flight. By the time Jack returned with full water buckets, she'd transformed the shack into something almost homely. "You didn't have to do all this," he said. "I needed to do something useful." She took one of the buckets. "Besides, if we're playing husband and wife, might as well make it look lived in." He watched her work for a moment, then said, "I'll scout the perimeter, make sure we weren't followed." After he left, Eliza allowed herself the luxury of washing. She heated water over the fire Jack had built, then retreated behind a threadbare curtain to scrub away days of trail dust. The lye soap was harsh, but she'd never smelled anything so sweet. She washed her hair, too, combing out tangles with her fingers. She was wringing water from her hair when she heard Jack's voice outside, "Eliza, you decent." "Just a moment." She quickly dressed in her blue dress, dirty and torn now, but all she had. "Come in." He entered carrying a bundle. "Found these in the saddlebags." He handed her a man's shirt and pants. "Figured you might want something sturdier." The clothes were worn but clean, far too big for her. "Thank you. They'll need taking in, but better than—" He gestured at her tattered dress. "Better than looking like a saloon girl on the run." "Something like that." She fingered the soft flannel shirt. It smelled of cedar and saddle leather. His clothes, she realized. "I don't suppose you found a needle and thread in those magical saddlebags." A smile tugged at his mouth. He produced a small sewing kit. "Man learns to mend his own gear out here." They worked in companionable silence as afternoon faded to evening. Eliza altered the clothes while Jack cleaned his weapons and repaired a tear in his saddlebag. Domestic. Almost, like they really were what they pretended to be. "Can I ask you something?" Eliza said, biting off a thread. "You going to, regardless of what I say?" "Probably," she smiled. "How does a man like you end up doing what you do?" Jack's hand stilled on the leather. You mean killing folks for money? I mean living outside everything. No home, no ties, no future. He resumed his work. Started young, 16 when I killed my first man. Self-defense. But the law didn't see it that way. Been running ever since. 13 years of running? Don't you get tired? Every damn day. The admission seemed to surprise him. He set aside the saddlebag, stared into the fire. But once you start down that road, there's no turning back. Each kill makes the next one easier. Until what? Until you forget what it felt like to be anything else. The rawness in his voice made her heart ache. She set aside her sewing, moved to sit beside him on the floor. Not touching, but close enough to offer comfort by proximity. Maybe you could remember, she said softly. Maybe it's not too late. He looked at her then, and she saw something vulnerable in his eyes before he shuttered it away. Pretty thoughts for a pretty girl, but the world doesn't work that way. Doesn't it? You chose not to kill me. That has to mean something. Means I'm getting soft in my old age. 29 isn't old. It is in my line of work. They sat quietly, watching the fire, outside. Coyotes called to each other across the darkening desert. The shack felt like a bubble of safety in a dangerous world. Temporary, but precious. I should check the horses, Jack said eventually. But he didn't move. They're fine. Probably. More silence. Then Eliza found herself saying, "That night in Fort Worth, after I saw Morrison kill that man, I ran back to my boarding house, packed everything I owned in 10 minutes. I was on a stage to anywhere but there within the hour. Smart. I left everything behind. My job at the dress shop, the few friends I'd made, the life I was building." She pulled her knees to her chest. "I've been running ever since to different towns, different names, always looking over my shoulder, waiting for Morrison to find me. He never will now. Far as he knows, you're dead." "Thanks to you." She turned to look at him. "Why did you really save me? Jack, don't give me that line about good people and bad reasons. There's more to it." He held her gaze for a long moment. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "My sister, Mary Catherine." His voice roughened. "Been dead 10 years now. Cholera took her, but she had your way of enduring, of finding grace in hard places." "I'm sorry." "A long time ago." He stood abruptly. "I'll check those horses now." After he left, Eliza finished her alterations and changed into the modified clothes. The pants felt strange, but liberating no heavy skirts to tangle her legs if she needed to run. She was rolling up the 2 long sleeves when Jack returned. He stopped in the doorway, staring. "You look like a boy playing dress-up. Like someone who could disappear into any frontier town without drawing notice." He closed the door, barred it. "That's good. That'll help keep you safe. From Morrison or from you?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Jack moved closer, close enough that she could see the firelight dancing in his eyes. "I told you I'm not going to hurt you." "I know." She met his gaze steadily. "But there's different kinds of hurt, aren't there?" Something shifted in the air between them, electric and dangerous as summer lightning. Jack raised his hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her jaw, feather-light. "Eliza." "Don't." She caught his hand, but didn't push it away. "Don't say whatever noble thing you're about to say, about how you're no good for me, how I deserve better. I know all that, but right now, in this moment," she took a shaky breath, "I'm so tired of being afraid, of being alone. Aren't you?" His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Yes." "Then stop thinking so much." For a heartbeat, she thought he'd pull away. Then he leaned in, and his lips found hers. The kiss was gentle at first, almost questioning. Then her arms went around his neck and his hands tangled in her still damp hair. And gentle became something else entirely. Hunger, need, Two lonely souls reaching for warmth in the darkness. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jack rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things. Everything's already complicated. Eliza. She silenced him with another kiss, shorter but no less intense. Tomorrow we can go back to running. Tonight, can't we just be... He pulled her against him, holding her like she might vanish. You're going to be the death of me, woman. I thought you were already living on borrowed time. I am. He pulled back enough to look at her. But damn if you don't make me want to steal a little more. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the tin roof. But inside the crooked shack, wrapped in each other's arms before the dying fire, Eliza felt safer than she had in years. Not because the danger had passed, it hadn't. Not because the future was certain, it wasn't. But because for the first time in so long, she wasn't facing the darkness alone, and neither was he. Later, as they lay entwined on the narrow rope bed, Jack's voice came soft in the darkness. What you did back there, dropping your defenses, choosing to trust me, that took courage. She pressed closer to his warmth. Or foolishness. Maybe both. His arms tightened around her. I meant what I said before, though I choose you, Eliza Monroe. Whatever that means, whatever comes next, I choose you. And I choose you, Jack, whatever your real name is, Graves. A chuckle rumbled through his chest. John, my given name is John Marcus Graves, but nobody's called me that since Mary Catherine died. John. She tested the name, found it didn't suit the dangerous man holding her. I think I prefer Jack. So do I. They fell quiet, listening to the wind and their own breathing. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled a storm building over the mountains. By morning, they'd have to run again. But for now, in this stolen moment between one heartbeat and the next, they had found something worth more than safety. They had found each other. The storm had washed out their tracks, but it also brought someone else a ghost from Jack's past who materialized out of the morning mist like a bad omen. They'd been watering the horses at a creek when Jack suddenly went rigid, hand moving to his gun. Easy there, Kane. The voice was smooth as snake oil. Wouldn't want to do anything hasty in front of the lady. The man who emerged from the cottonwoods was lean and well-dressed. Too well-dressed for the frontier. Black coat, string tie, boots that had never seen honest work. He had pale eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. Mendez. Jack's voice was flat as hammered iron. Been a while, hasn't it? 2 years, 3? Mendez kept his hands visible but relaxed, like a man without a care in the world. Heard you were in the area. Thought I'd pay my respects. Eliza felt Jack shift slightly, putting himself between her and the newcomer. State your business and move on. My business? Mendez laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Why, you are my business, old friend. You and your companion. Those pale eyes fixed on Eliza. Miss Monroe, I presume, or should I say Mrs. Graves, I confess. The stories have been somewhat contradictory. How did you find us? Jack's question came out sharp. Oh, I have my ways. Amazing what a man will tell you for the right price, or the right persuasion. Mendez stepped closer, and Eliza saw Jack's fingers twitch near his holster. Relax, Kane. I'm not here for a fight. Not yet, anyway. Then why are you here? Professional courtesy. Wanted to let you know Morrison's upped the price. $5,000 for the girl. That's a lot of money. Not interested. I know. That's what makes this so fascinating. Mendez pulled out a cigarette, lit it with studied casualness. The great Jack Graves, turning down easy money for what love? He laughed again. Never thought I'd see the day. You've seen it. Now, move on. Can't do that. I'm afraid. Mendez blew smoke into the morning air. See, I've got a reputation to maintain. Can't have people saying Carlos Mendez let Jack Graves walk away with a $5,000 bounty. Bad for business. Then we have a problem. We do indeed. Mendez's smile widened. But I'm a reasonable man. I'll give you a head start. Say, until sundown, then I come collecting the girl alive. You, well, dealer's choice on that one. Jack's voice dropped low and dangerous. You come after us. Only one of us walks away. And it won't be you. Maybe, maybe not. You're good, Cain. But you've gone soft. Can see it in your eyes. That woman's made you weak. Mendez tipped his hat to Eliza. No offense, ma'am. It's just the nature of things. Love makes fools of us all. He turned to go, then paused. Oh, one more thing. Murphy's boys, they're about 6 hours behind me. Thought you should know. Wouldn't want them interfering in our reunion. With that, he melted back into the trees, leaving only cigarette smoke and the promise of violence. We need to go, Jack said, already moving toward the horses. Now. Who was that? Eliza asked, though she already suspected. Carlos Mendez, best tracker in 3 territories. We worked together once. Jack's movements were sharp, efficient. If he found us, we're not as hidden as I thought. They rode hard through the morning, pushing northwest into increasingly rough country. Jack chose paths that would punish anyone following narrow ledges. Loose scree, routes that required dismounting and leading the horse. Eliza didn't complain. Even when the sun climbed high and her water ran low, she could feel the urgency radiating from Jack like heat from a forge. By midday, they'd reached an area of broken badlands, twisted rock formations, and deep gulches that looked like God's own maze. Jack led them into it without hesitation. You know this place? She asked. Spent a winter here once, hiding from a posse out of Amarillo. He guided them between towering red rocks. Good place to make a stand. Is that what we're doing, making a stand? He glanced back at her. You got any better ideas? We could keep running. Make for California like you said. Mendez won't stop. Neither will Murphy. We run, we'll be looking over our shoulders forever. His jaw tightened. I'm tired of running. They found what Jack was looking for, a box canyon with high walls and only one way in. At the back, a small seep provided water, and an overhang offered shade. Defensive positions everywhere. This is where you want to fight? Eliza asked. This is where I teach you to shoot. Jack was already unpacking. You've got maybe 4 hours to learn. Jack. No arguments. He handed her one of his Colts, the weight of it heavy in her palm. Mendez is a killer, but he's got rules. He won't shoot a woman who can't defend herself. But if you're armed, he shrugged. That changes the game. You want me to kill him? I want you to survive. His gray eyes bored into hers. Whatever that takes. The next hours passed in a blur of instruction. How to hold the weapon, how to sight, how to squeeze, not pull. Jack was a patient teacher, correcting her stance, adjusting her grip. The Colt kicked like a mule, but Eliza gritted her teeth and kept firing until she could hit what she aimed at more often than not. You're a natural, Jack said, watching her put 6 shots into a makeshift target. Most people take weeks to shoot that straight. I had good motivation, she reloaded, fingers only fumbling a little. What happened between you and Mendez? Why does he hate you? Jack was quiet for a moment, reloading his own weapons. We were partners once, bounty hunters. Good at it, too. Then a job went bad in El Paso. Mendez wanted to kill a witness, a kid, maybe 14. I disagreed. You stopped him. Put a bullet in his shoulder. Left him for the law. Jack's smile was humorless. He spent 2 years in Huntsville prison because of me. Guess he holds a grudge. And now he's coming for payback. Using you as an excuse, he'd have come eventually anyway. Jack checked the sun. We've got maybe an hour. I need you to listen careful now. He walked her through the canyon, showing her positions, escape routes, places where the rock would provide cover. His voice was calm, matter-of-fact, like he was explaining how to bake bread instead of how to survive a gunfight. If things go bad, there's a path up the back wall, narrow, but you can make it. Leads out to a trail north. You take the horse and... I'm not leaving you. Eliza. No. She faced him, chin raised. We stand together or not at all. Something passed across his face, pride, fear, love, all mixed together. Stubborn woman. You knew that when you chose me. I did. He pulled her close, kissed her hard. All right, together, then. They didn't have long to wait, as the sun tilted toward the canyon walls, painting everything blood orange. Mendez appeared at the canyon mouth. He'd shed his fancy coat, now wearing a shoulder rig that showed off matched ivory-handled pistols. He walked in slow, deliberate, hands empty but ready. Time's up. Kane. His voice echoed off stone. Let's do this civilized. Send the girl out, and you and I can settle our differences like gentlemen. Jack stepped out from cover. Eliza beside him. She felt the weight of the Colt on her hip. Tried to project confidence she didn't feel. The lady's not going anywhere, Jack called back. Mendez sighed theatrically. I was afraid you'd say that. His pale eyes fixed on Eliza. You sure you want to stand with him? Miss, this doesn't have to be your fight. It became my fight when you decided to hunt me for money, Eliza replied, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. Fair enough. Mendez spread his hands. How do you want to play this? Kane, traditional count of 3. Your call. You came looking for this. So I did. Mendez smiled that snake smile. Tell you what, let's make it interesting. You and me, no interference. I win, the lady comes with me. You win. We both walk away. Deal. No, Eliza said before Jack could answer. No deals. You want me, you go through both of us. Mendez laughed. Oh, I do like her. Kane, got more spine than most men I know? His hands drifted toward his guns. Shame I have to... He moved fast, faster than Eliza expected. But Jack was faster. The canyon exploded with gunfire, the sound bouncing off walls until it seemed like an army was shooting. Eliza dove for cover as bullets whined off stone. Jack rolling the other direction, firing as he moved. Mendez had taken cover behind a boulder, those ivory pistols spitting fire. Still quick, old friend. But for how long? More gunfire. Eliza pressed against the rock, heart hammering. She could see Jack pinned down 10 feet away. Mendez advancing using cover. Soon he'd have an angle. Without thinking, she raised the Colt and fired. The shot went wide, but it made Mendez duck. Jack used the distraction to move to better cover. The kitten has claws, Mendez laughed. This gets better and better. The battle became a deadly dance advance and retreat, fire and cover. Mendez was good, maybe better than Jack had expected, or maybe Jack was holding back, some part of him remembering when they'd been partners. Then Mendez made a mistake, going for a killing shot on Jack. He exposed himself for just a second. Eliza saw it, raised her gun, and fired. The bullet caught Mendez in the thigh, spinning him around. He went down hard, one pistol skittering across the stone. Jack was on him in an instant, kicking the other gun away. His Colt pressed to Mendez's temple. Do it, Mendez gasped, clutching his bleeding leg. Go on, finish what you started in El Paso. Jack stood over him, gun steady. Eliza watched, holding her breath. She could see the war in Jack's eyes kill the threat, or show mercy to a former friend. Get out, Jack said finally. Crawl back to whatever hole you came from. Tell Morrison the woman's dead. Tell him Jack Graves is dead too. We don't exist anymore. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's mine to make. Jack stepped back. You've got one chance. Carlos, take it. Mendez struggled to his feet, face pale with pain and rage. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." Jack's voice was final as a closing door. "Next time I see you, I won't hesitate. Remember that." Mendez limped toward the canyon entrance, leaving a blood trail on the stone. At the mouth, he turned back. "You know they'll keep coming. Morrison, Murphy, others. You can't protect her forever. Watch me." After Mendez was gone, Eliza rushed to Jack. "You're hurt." Blood seeped from a graze on his arm. "It's nothing." But he let her tend it, sitting still as she cleaned and wrapped the wound. "You did good. That shot saved my life." "I couldn't let him." She stopped, hands shaking now that the danger had passed. "I shot a man." "You defended yourself. Defended us." He caught her hands, held them steady. "No shame in that." "Will he really stay away?" "Maybe. Mendez has his own code, but others won't." Jack stood, pulling her up with him. "We need to keep moving." As they packed to leave, Eliza looked around the canyon that had almost become a killing ground. "Jack, what you said before about being tired of running. Yeah, maybe it's time we stopped, found somewhere they wouldn't think to look, became those other people, like you said." He considered this, then nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. Question is where—" "Anywhere but here," she said. "Anywhere we can just live." They rode out as purple twilight filled the canyon, leaving blood and bullet scars behind. Somewhere out there, Mendez was nursing his wounds and his grudges. Somewhere, Murphy's posse was still searching. Somewhere, Morrison was waiting for news of her death. But for now, they rode together into the gathering dark. Two souls who'd found each other in violence and chosen something better. The hunter had become protector. The prey had become partner. And both had discovered that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world was hope. The abandoned silver mine carved into the mountainside like a black wound. They'd been riding for 2 days since the confrontation with Mendez, pushing higher into the Colorado territory where the air grew thin and cold. Jack's arm was healing, but Eliza could see the fever starting the way he swayed in the saddle, the glassy look in his eyes. "We need to stop," she said for the 3rd time. "Not yet." His voice was rough. "Need more distance." But when he nearly fell dismounting at the mine entrance, she knew they couldn't go further. The mine went deep into the mountain. Old support beams still mostly solid. She helped him inside, found a chamber where long-dead miners had left supplies candles, blankets moth-eaten but usable, even some canned goods. "This'll do," Jack mumbled, sinking onto the blankets she'd spread. By nightfall, his fever was raging. Eliza had seen men die from infected wounds, and fear clawed at her chest. She cleaned the graze again. It looked angry, red streaks spreading up his arm. "Need to burn it," Jack said during a lucid moment. "Clean it out." "I don't know how." "Heat the knife. Press it to the wound. Has to be done." Her hands shook as she heated his blade over a candle flame. When she pressed the hot metal to his arm, he bit down on a leather strap and didn't make a sound, though his whole body went rigid. The smell of burning flesh made her stomach turn. Afterward, he passed out. She sat beside him through the long night, cooling his fever with wet cloths, listening to him mutter in delirium. He called for Mary Catherine, begged someone named David to forgive him, and once, clear as day, he said, "Don't leave me, Eliza." "I won't," she whispered, holding his hand. "I'm right here." By dawn, the fever had broken. Jack woke clear-eyed but weak, his good hand finding hers. "You stayed." "Where else would I go?" She tried for lightness, but her voice cracked. "You scared me." "Sorry." He struggled to sit up. "How long was I out?" "Just the night. But Jack, you need real rest. We can't keep running if you're half dead." He looked around the chamber, taking in their situation. This place could work. Defensive. Water nearby from that stream we passed. We could hold up for a few days. A few weeks would be better. Don't have weeks, Murphy's boys. We'll have a hard time tracking us through that storm we rode through, and Mendez won't be walking anywhere soon on that leg. She fixed him with a stern look. You need to heal, or next time you won't be fast enough. He knew she was right. She could see him accepting it, though it went against every instinct. All right, but we set watches, and if anyone comes, I'll wake you. She pressed him back down. Now, rest. The days that followed took on a strange rhythm. Eliza ventured out for water and to check on the horse. Always armed, always watchful. She found edible plants growing near the stream, shot a rabbit that made fresh stew. Jack slept, his body finally getting the rest it had been denied for years. On the third day, he was well enough to sit outside the mine entrance, cleaning weapons while Eliza washed clothes in the stream. Domestic. Again. Like they were homesteaders instead of fugitives. Teach me more, she said, gesturing at the guns. Not just shooting. Everything. So he did. How to clean an oil, how to quick load, how to clear a jam. His hands over hers, guiding, patient. She learned the weight of each weapon, its quirks and preferences. You're taking to this awful natural, he observed. Watching her reassemble a Colt blindfolded his test to see if she'd really learned. I had a good teacher. She removed the blindfold. Plus, I like understanding how things work. Makes them less mysterious, less frightening. That's wise. He was quiet for a moment. Most people, they see a gun, they see death. You see a tool. Is that good or bad? It's practical. Out here, practical keeps you alive. That night, as they sat by their small fire, Eliza asked, What was her like, Mary Catherine? Jack stared into the flames. Stubborn, smart, too good for the life we had, but she never complained. A sad smile touched his lips. She used to say I was born under a wandering star. Couldn't settle. Couldn't be still. Guess she was right. Maybe you just hadn't found a reason to stop wandering. He looked at her across the fire. Maybe. On the fifth day, they saw riders in the distance too far to identify, but moving with purpose through the valley below. Jack and Eliza retreated deep into the mine, waiting in darkness until the danger passed. Getting crowded out here, Jack murmured. They're searching blind now, looking everywhere because they don't know where we are. Won't last. Someone will remember this mine. Come checking. Then we'd better be ready. She said it calm as you please, checking her pistol. Jack shook his head. When did you get so bloodthirsty? Not bloodthirsty, just tired of being afraid. She met his eyes. You were right before. Running just means looking over our shoulders forever. If they come, we face them. Together. Together. They didn't have long to wait. The next morning, Eliza was gathering water when she heard horses approaching, many horses, moving fast. She ran back to the mine, finding Jack already armed and ready. How many? He asked. 8, maybe 10, coming up the trail. They took positions in the mine entrance. Using the rocks for cover, the riders came into view, and Eliza's heart sank. Murphy led them, his face red with rage and drink. Behind him rode his hired guns, hard men with harder reputations. Graves, Murphy's voice boomed across the clearing. I know you're in there, seen your horse's tracks. Jack called back. Turn around, Murphy. This doesn't have to end bloody. Oh, but it does. Murphy dismounted, his men spreading out in a half circle. You stole from me. Graves, took my property. I'm nobody's property, Eliza shouted. Murphy laughed, ugly and mean. There she is, the lying Jezebel herself. Come on out, girl. Face justice like you should have a week ago. The only justice here is what we make. Jack said, Last warning, leave now, or leave in a box. Brave words for a man outnumbered 10-1. 10-2, Eliza corrected, showing herself briefly, gun in hand. And we've got cover. One of Murphy's men, a scarred gunman named Dawson, spoke up. "Boss, maybe we should—" "Shut up!" Murphy's face was purple now. "First man to bring me that girl gets a $100 bonus. The rest of you grow some backbone." What happened next happened fast. Murphy's men rushed forward, and the mountains erupted with gunfire. Eliza fired and moved, just like Jack had taught her. The mine entrance became a fortress, bullets sparking off stone, men crying out as they fell. Jack was a force of nature beside her calm, deadly, precise. Every shot found its mark, but there were too many, and they kept coming. "The dynamite," Jack said suddenly. "In the mine, old miners always kept some—" "You want to blow the entrance? Want to blow everything? Bring the whole mountain down if we have to." He fired twice more, then grabbed her arm. "Go find it, I'll hold them." She ran deeper into the mine, feeling along walls in the darkness. There, a wooden box, waxed sticks inside. She grabbed it all, plus the coil of fuse beside it. When she got back, Jack was bleeding from a new graze along his ribs. 3 of Murphy's men were down, but the rest had found cover and were laying down steady fire. "Perfect," Jack said, seeing the dynamite. "You know what to do." She did. They'd talked about it during their planning. She prepped the charges while Jack kept firing, his ammunition running low. When everything was ready, she looked at him. "This is crazy." "Crazy's all we got left," he grinned, wild and free. "Light it." She touched flame to fuse 3 different ones, all burning toward enough dynamite to bring down half the mountain. "How long?" 2 minutes, maybe less. We need to get deep, find cover." They ran into the mine's darkness as bullets followed them. Behind them, the fuses burned like angry stars. They found a side chamber, sturdy-looking, and dove inside just as the world exploded. The sound was beyond sound, a physical force that slammed them to the ground. The mountain shook, roared, rebelled. Dust filled everything, choking, blinding. Rocks fell like rain. Then, slowly, silence. Eliza coughed, feeling for Jack in the darkness. "You alive?" "Think so." His voice was rough. "You—" "Still here." They waited until the dust settled some, then made their way back. The mine entrance was gone sealed by tons of fallen rock. Sunlight filtered through cracks high above where the explosion had opened new gaps. "Think we got 'em?" Eliza asked. "Got enough. Rest won't stick around to dig through that." They found a way out through one of the gaps, emerging high on the mountainside. Below, they could see the devastation. Half of Murphy's men were down, the rest in full retreat. Murphy himself lay unmoving near what used to be the entrance. "It's over," Jack said quietly. "This part is—" Eliza leaned against him, exhausted. "But Mendez was right. Others will come. Then we'll face them, or we'll run, or we'll find that place to disappear." He turned to her. "Whatever we do it together." "Together," she agreed. They made their way down the mountain, finding Jack's horse had survived, smart enough to run from the explosion. As they prepared to leave, Eliza looked back at the sealed mine. "We could have died in there, but we didn't." Jack helped her mount. "We're still here, still fighting. That's what matters." They rode away from the mountain graveyard, leaving the dead to the buzzards and the past to bury itself. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, the constant threat of pursuit, but also possibility, hope, a future they would carve out with their own hands, one way or another. The sun climbed higher, warming their faces as they descended toward the valley, and Eliza found herself smiling despite everything. She'd faced down death, learned to fight, discovered strength she never knew she had. Whatever came next, she was ready for it. The user wants me to write part 7 of the story following the outline. According to the outline, part 7 is Doi mat vasu luachon koi kung falling action. Where? Jack is weak and can't fight properly. Eliza holds a gun. Facing Mendez, Mendez taunts them about Jack being a killer. Eliza shoots, but doesn't kill. She wounds Mendez and lets him go, proving she won't become a cold-blooded killer. Jack looks at Eliza with amazement and respect. She chose not just him, but a different path for both of them. However, I need to adjust this because in Part 5 I already had a confrontation with Mendez, where Eliza shot him in the leg, and Jack let him go. In Part 6, I had Murphy and his men attack the mine, and presumably Murphy died in the explosion. So I need to create a new confrontation that fits the spirit of Part 7, where Eliza faces a moral choice about killing versus mercy, and chooses a path that isn't pure violence. Perhaps Mendez returns, more desperate, or perhaps another pursuer arrives. Let me craft this to fit the narrative arc while maintaining consistency with what I've already written. I'll have Mendez return one final time, badly wounded and desperate, forcing the final confrontation where Eliza must make her choice. The cabin appeared through the snow like a promise weathered logs chinked with mud, smoke rising from a stone chimney. They'd been riding for 3 weeks since the mine, pushing north into Wyoming territory where early winter had already dusted the mountains white. Jack slumped forward in the saddle, the last of his strength finally failing. "Almost there," Eliza murmured, though she wasn't sure he could hear her anymore. The fever had returned 2 days ago, worse than before. The wounds from the mine fight had never properly healed, and the hard riding had torn them open. She'd been leading his horse for the last 10 miles, praying they'd find shelter before he fell. The cabin belonged to a trapper Jack knew or had known. They found him frozen beside his woodpile, dead at least a month. Eliza said a quick prayer over the body before dragging Jack inside. No time for proper burial, no time for anything but survival. She got Jack onto the narrow bed, built up the fire, and set about making the cabin livable. The trapper had been well-supplied dried meat, flour, coffee, medicine. She cleaned Jack's wounds again, forced willow bark tea between his lips, and settled in for another long vigil. On the 3rd night, as wind howled around the cabin and snow piled against the windows, she heard horses. Her blood turned to ice. She checked the loads in both colts, positioned herself between the door and Jack's unconscious form. The horses stopped outside. Footsteps crunched through snow. Then, a voice she recognized with sinking heart. "I know you're in there." Mendez. But his smooth voice was rough now, pained. "Saw the smoke. Figured it had to be you." "Go away," Eliza called. "Haven't you had enough?" "Can't do that." A wet cough. "Got nowhere else to go." Something in his tone made her frown. She peered through a crack in the shuttered window. Mendez sat his horse awkwardly, favoring his wounded leg. But it was worse than that dark stains on his coat, the way he swayed in the saddle. "You're hurt." Observant as always. Another cough, and she saw him spit something dark into the snow. "Murphy's boys didn't take kindly to my failure. Figured I'd led you to that mine." They expressed their disappointment vigorously. "That's not our problem." "No, it's not." He dismounted clumsily, nearly falling. "But here's the thing. Mrs. Graves. I'm dying. Got maybe hours left. And before I go, I need to finish what I started." "You can barely stand." "Don't need to stand to shoot." He limped toward the door, leaving a blood trail in the snow. "Jack Graves killed my partner, my friend. Let me rot in prison. I can't die without settling that score." Eliza's mind raced. Jack was unconscious, helpless. She was the only thing standing between him and Mendez's vengeance. "He showed you mercy, let you live." "Mercy?" Mendez laughed, a horrible wet sound. "You call humiliation mercy? You know what they did to me in Huntsville, what I became in that place." He was at the door now. "Open up. Let's end this proper." "No." "Then I'll burn you out. Got oil in my saddlebags? You want to roast? Or you want to face me?" She looked back at Jack. still lost in fever dreams. Then she unbarred the door. Mendez stood in the doorway, a ruined shadow of the elegant gunman from before. Blood soaked his shirt, his face gray with pain and blood loss, but his eyes still held that cold purpose, and his hand was steady on his gun. "Where is he?" "Dying," Eliza said simply. "Fever took him. You're too late." Mendez pushed past her, saw Jack on the bed. "He's breathing." "Barely. The wounds from the mine went bad. He won't last the night." The lie came smooth as silk. "You want your revenge. Take it. Shoot an unconscious man. That'll make you feel better about everything. Won't it?" Mendez stared down at Jack, and Eliza saw something flicker in those pale eyes. Uncertainty, maybe, or recognition of what he'd become. "He took everything from me," Mendez said quietly. "No." Eliza stepped closer. "You took everything from yourself. Every choice you made led you here." Jack just held up a mirror. "Shut up." "You were partners, friends." He told me about El Paso, about the boy you wanted to kill. "He was a witness." "He was a child." Eliza moved between Mendez and the bed. "And Jack stopped you because that's what decent men do. They don't murder children, even for money." "Decent?" Mendez laughed bitterly. "Jack Graves hasn't been decent since he chose to change, since he decided to be better than what the world made him." She raised her chin. "Just like I'm choosing now." "Choosing what?" "Not to kill you." Mendez blinked. "What?" "I could shoot you right now. You're weak, wounded, distracted. It would be easy, justified, even protecting Jack, defending myself." She let her hand rest on her gun but didn't draw. "But I won't, because I'm not you. I'm not what this life is trying to make me." "You're a fool." "Maybe, but I'll be a living fool with a clean conscience." She stepped aside, gesturing to the door. "Go. Find somewhere else to die. Or don't die, get help. Change your life. Make different choices. I don't care. Just go." Mendez stared at her, then at Jack, then back. "You just let me walk away." "That's what mercy looks like. Real mercy. Not the kind that comes from a gun." She met his gaze steadily. "Jack taught me to shoot, but he also taught me when not to. That's the harder lesson." Something broke in Mendez's expression. The rage that had sustained him drained away, leaving only exhaustion and pain. "He doesn't deserve you." "Maybe not, but that's my choice to make." Mendez holstered his gun with shaking hands. "You know I could come back, soon as I'm healed." "You won't." She said it with quiet certainty. "Because you're tired too, tired of the killing, the running, the emptiness of it all. I can see it in your eyes, the same look Jack had when he chose not to kill me." Mendez turned toward the door, took 2 steps, then stopped. Without turning back, he said, "There's a town called Laredo, down in the New Mexico territory. Small place, off the main trails. Sheriff, there is a friend. Mention my name. He'll help you disappear. Real names, new life, the whole thing." A pause. "Consider it. Professional courtesy." "Why would you help us?" Now he did turn, and for the first time, his smile held warmth instead of ice. "Because you're right. I am tired. And maybe if Jack Graves can change, there's hope for Carlos Mendez too." He limped out into the snow. Eliza stood in the doorway, watching him struggle onto his horse. As he gathered the reins, she called out, "There's a doctor in Benton, about 10 miles east. He doesn't ask questions." Mendez touched his hat brim, then rode away into the swirling white. Eliza watched until he vanished, then closed and barred the door. She returned to Jack's bedside, checking his temperature, still high, but maybe breaking. As she wrung out a cool cloth for his forehead, his eyes fluttered open. "Eliza." His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm here." "Thought I heard—" "Mendez." "You were dreaming." She smoothed the cloth over his burning skin. Rest now. You're safe. You're safe. I'm safe. We both are. He caught her hand weakly. Love you. The words hung in the air between them. First time said aloud. Eliza felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too. Now sleep. Get strong. We have a long way to go yet. He drifted off again, but his breathing seemed easier. Eliza sat beside him through the rest of the night, standing guard against fever and memory and the ghosts of choices past. When dawn came, painting the snow-covered mountains pink and gold, Jack's fever had broken. He woke clear-eyed, reaching for her. How long? 4 days. You nearly... She couldn't finish. But I didn't. He struggled to sit up. Thanks to you. We need to talk about Laredo. She said, about what comes next. Laredo, a place to disappear, to become those new people we talked about. She helped him drink some water. If you want, if you're ready to stop running. Jack looked at her for a long moment. What about you? What do you want? I want a life that's more than just survival. I want to wake up without checking for pursuit. She took a breath. I want to see who we could be if we weren't always looking over our shoulders. That's a dangerous dream. Everything about us is dangerous. Might as well dream big. He smiled, the expression transforming his harsh features. All right, then. Laredo it is, soon as I can sit a horse. No rush. Winter's here, and we have supplies. We can wait until you're truly healed. She squeezed his hand. We have time. Time. Such a simple word, but it felt like a luxury they'd never been able to afford. Time to heal, to plan, to just be together without the immediate press of danger. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in pristine white. Inside, the fire crackled warmly, and two people who'd found each other in violence began to imagine a future built on something else entirely. The running wasn't over, might never be truly over, but for now, in this stolen moment of peace, they had chosen a different path, not the easy mercy of the gun, but the harder mercy of hope. And that, Eliza thought as she watched Jack drift back to healing sleep, was its own kind of victory. The sign above the door read, Ely's Cafe in fresh blue paint. Eliza stepped back to admire it, wiping her hands on her apron. 6 months in Laredo had transformed them both, but seeing their business finally ready to open still felt like a dream. Looks good, Jack said from behind her. He carried a crate of coffee beans, moving easily now with no trace of his old wounds. The dangerous gunslinger was gone, replaced by John Mason's shopkeeper, husband, citizen. His gun still rode his hips, but concealed now under a shopkeeper's apron. It looks perfect, Eliza corrected. She was Elizabeth Mason now. According to the papers Sheriff Rodriguez had helped them secure, the sheriff had been true to Mendez's word, no questions asked. Just quiet assistance for two people seeking a fresh start. Laredo itself was perfect for disappearing. A small town in the New Mexico territory, far from main trade routes, populated by folks who minded their own business. Mexicans, Americans, Indians, all mixing in relative peace, the kind of place where people came to forget and be forgotten. They'd bought the old cantina with money Jack had saved over his years of hunting blood money transformed into hope. Together, they'd scrubbed and painted, rebuilt and reimagined. What had been a dark hole for drinking away sorrows became a bright cafe serving honest food and strong coffee. You ready for tomorrow? Jack asked, setting down the crate. Ready as I'll ever be. Opening day, their new life made official. You. I've faced down 20 men trying to kill me. How hard can serving coffee be? She laughed, the sound still surprising her with its ease. When was the last time she'd laughed before Jack she couldn't remember? The bell above the door chimed, and Sheriff Rodriguez entered. A quiet man with kind eyes. He'd been their guardian angel in Laredo, smoothing their way without prying into their past. Wanted to check on you folks before the big day. he said, admiring the renovated space. Place looks fine, real fine. Thank you, Sheriff, for everything. Eliza poured him coffee from the pot they'd been testing. Will you come tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. He sipped the coffee, nodded approval. Good brew. You'll do well here. After he left, they finished the last preparations in comfortable silence. As the sun set, painting the desert in familiar reds and golds, Eliza found herself at the window, watching the street. Looking for trouble? Jack asked, moving beside her. Old habits. But she wasn't really looking for danger anymore. She was looking at their town, their street, their future. Sometimes I can't believe we made it. We almost didn't, more than once. But we did, and now... She gestured at the cafe. Now we get to live. Strange feeling, isn't it? His arm went around her shoulders. Keep waiting for the other boot to drop. Maybe it won't. Maybe this is our reward for surviving. Maybe. They locked up and walked to their small adobe house 2 streets over. Another miracle, their own home, with real furniture and a garden plot out back. Eliza had planted tomatoes and chilies, things that would grow in the desert soil, putting down roots in more ways than one. As they prepared for bed, Jack said, I need to tell you something. Her hands stilled on the buttons of her dress. What? Got a letter today, from Fort Worth. Her blood chilled. Morrison. No, Morrison's dead. Killed in a dispute over cattle rights 3 months ago. Jack pulled the letter from a drawer. This is from a lawyer. Seems Morrison left behind some interesting documents, including a confession about that murder you witnessed. Eliza sank onto the bed. He confessed? Deathbed thing, apparently. Wanted to clear his conscience. The real killer was his brother. Morrison just helped cover it up. Jack sat beside her. You're free, Eliza. Really, truly free. No one's hunting you anymore. She stared at the letter, reading it twice before the words sank in. Free. No price on her head, no need to hide. And you, far as the world knows, Jack Graves died in a mine explosion in Colorado. John Mason has no enemies. We're free. She said it again, tasting the word. Both of us. Both of us. She threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at once. He held her tight, and she felt him shaking too, all the fear and tension of months finally releasing. That night, they made plans, real plans, not escape routes. They'd run the cafe, maybe expand, add rooms for travelers, build something lasting, have the life that had seemed impossible when they were racing across the desert with death at their heels. Opening day dawned clear and bright. Eliza Elizabeth woke early, nervous energy thrumming through her. She dressed carefully in a new dress, blue like the old one, but finer, more respectable. Jack wore a clean white shirt and string tie, looking handsome and almost respectable. Ready, Mrs. Mason, he asked, offering his arm. Ready, Mr. Mason. They walked to the cafe hand in hand, finding a small crowd already gathered. Sheriff Rodriguez was there, along with the baker from next door, the seamstress who'd made Eliza's dress, the banker who'd helped with their business loan, neighbors, friends, community. Eliza unlocked the door with shaking hands. Welcome to Ellie's. The morning flew by in a blur of coffee and conversation. She served fresh biscuits with honey, eggs from their own chickens, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Jack worked beside her, surprisingly graceful for such a dangerous man. They moved together like dancers, anticipating each other's needs. Around midday, when the rush had slowed, a stranger entered. Eliza's old instincts flared something about the way he moved, the way his eyes swept the room. But then he smiled, and she recognized him despite the changes. Carlos Mendez was thinner, his hair going gray at the temples. He walked with a slight limp but no longer carried himself like a predator. His clothes were simple, working man's clothes. The ivory-handled pistols were gone. Coffee, please, he said quietly. "And whatever you recommend for a man with a long road behind him." Eliza served him herself, setting down a plate of food without a word. He ate slowly, savoring each bite. When Jack emerged from the kitchen, he stopped, hand moving instinctively toward where his gun used to ride openly. "Mendez. Mason, isn't it now?" Mendez smiled slightly. "Good name. Solid. Builder's name." "What are you doing here?" "Passing through. Heard about a new cafe serving excellent coffee. Had to see for myself." He met their eyes steadily. "Also wanted to say thank you. For Benton. For everything." "You're the one who told us about Laredo," Eliza said. "Least I could do." He finished his coffee, left coins on the table. "I won't trouble you again. Just wanted you to know Carlos Mendez is as dead as Jack Graves. I'm Samuel Carson now. School teacher, if you can believe it. Got a position in California, teaching ranch children their letters." "A teacher?" Jack's eyebrows rose. "Turns out I have a gift for it. Who knew?" Mendez Carson stood. "Be happy, both of you. You earned it." He left without looking back. Eliza and Jack stood in their cafe, surrounded by the normal sounds of small-town life, and marveled at the strangeness of redemption. "A school teacher," Jack muttered. "Will wonders never cease?" The afternoon brought more customers, more neighbors introducing themselves. By evening, they were exhausted, but exhilarated. As they cleaned up, Sheriff Rodriguez returned. "Good first day. Better than we hoped," Eliza said. "Glad to hear it." He paused at the door. "You know, this town's seen its share of folks starting over. Some make it, some don't, but I got a feeling about you two. You're the kind that last." After he left, they finished closing in comfortable silence. As Eliza wiped down the last table, Jack caught her hand. "No regrets?" he asked. "Not one." She squeezed his fingers. "You... only that it took so long to find you." They locked up their cafe, and walked home through streets going purple with twilight. Behind them, the past lay buried under desert sand and mountain stone. Ahead stretched years of ordinary days, precious in their simplicity. At their door, Jack paused. "What you did that night with Mendez, choosing not to kill him, that changed everything." "I know. Changed me, too. Showed me we really could be different. Better." "We are better. Look at us, we're shopkeepers, respectable citizens, pillars of the community. With a very interesting past that no one ever needs to know about." They went inside, closing the door on the world. In their kitchen, Eliza started dinner while Jack set the table. Domestic, peaceful, everything they'd fought for. "Although," Eliza said, stirring the pot, "we should probably keep in practice, just in case." "Already ahead of you. Set up targets out back of the garden. Wouldn't do to get rusty." She smiled. "A woman should know how to defend what's hers." "And what's yours?" "This house, that cafe, this life." She turned to face him. "You, forever, forever." He crossed to her, pulled her close. "That man in Dry Creek, the one who said you'd be his, he had no idea what he was promising." "Neither did the woman who dropped her corset. But here we are." "Here we are." Outside, Laredo settled into evening quiet. Inside, two people who'd found each other in violence and chosen love instead prepared to face their greatest adventure, yet a normal life. Live together, one day at a time. The West had tried to break them. Instead, it had forged them into something stronger. Not just survivors, but builders. Not just lovers, but partners. Not just fugitives who'd found shelter, but citizens who'd found home. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Thank you so much for listening to this Wild West love story. I'd love to know where in the world you're enjoying this tale. Please share in the comments below. If you felt the passion and adventure of Eliza and Jack's journey, Don't forget to subscribe to Wild West Night for more stories from the untamed frontier. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And please consider pressing the hype button to help more listeners discover this story. Until we meet again on the dusty trails of the Old West. Partners.